What's good, everybody? I just wanted to talk real quickly about something I was studying earlier today, and the similarities that we have with Samson. Every one of us has a little bit of Samson in us. And let me explain. So Samson was one of the judges of Israel in the Old Testament. And the one thing that Samson is most widely known for is he's known for his superhuman strength, right? When the Spirit of God falls on him, he's able to slay the Philistines with real ease, no trouble at all. But one thing I think that kind of gets overlooked in the life of Samson is that he had serious vices and serious flaws that he never really recognized and never really dealt with until it was too late. Samson had serious vices. A vice is simply an immoral or evil or bad habit or practice. You can basically say that a vice is a secret addiction or an unshakable habit that we typically try to manage on our own. Anything that we manage on our own, especially when it comes to vices, we're always ill prepared to deal with that. Because listen, vices is basically a magnified version of sin, and all sin can be traced into three different ways: lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. And so with vices always make you feel good, right? Always appeal to your senses. Vices always look good to us, right? It's very difficult for us to turn away. And also vices typically make us feel important, make us feel like we're on top of the world, right? It tickles our fancy and strengthens our self-importance. But the one thing about Samson is when you look at chapters 14 through 16, you begin to see a pattern in his behavior. His very first wife, when he looks at his wife, he wants to marry her instantly. He sees this woman who is not an Israelite. He goes against his home custom, his home tradition, and sees a Philistine woman and says, hey, she looks good. I want her, right? And so he continues this pattern, even though he's being used by God. He slays the Philistines. He defeats any battle that comes his way. He still has this roving eye. He still is being moved by his vices. So he has a wife. He divorces his wife, sees a prostitute, gets with the prostitute because he wants the prostitute. It looks good to him. And so typically whenever we are the manipulators, the tricksters, we always try to control and manage every situation. We will try to outthink the person that we're trying to trick. We're trying to outsmart them, trying to make them lower than us, right? And so Samson has this pattern of behavior of trying to use his strength, use his cunning mind to win over these women until he meets Delilah. From the very beginning, Delilah is sent to trick Samson. Many times, whenever we're dealing with lust, we always run up to something or someone that is more than what we can handle. And that's the thing with Samson that he did not know. He did not know that from the very beginning, Delilah was out to get him. And as men, as children of God, even as women, we always, whenever we are trying to fulfill our lust, if we never nip it in the bud, we will always encounter a situation, a person, a place, a thing that is greater than what we can handle. So what did Samson do? Samson is so enthralled with this woman that he does whatever she wants him to do. Now he knows, Samson knows that he is a Nazarite. He knows that from his very, very birth that his hair cannot be cut, right? It's tied to his strength. However, the Philistines have gotten with Delilah and say, hey, if you can get the answer to how he is so strong, we got 1,100 pieces of silver just here waiting for you. So what does she do? She applies to his lustful side. She butters him up and says, hey, Samson, if you love me, tell me, what's the source of your strength? Now, what Samson does is he tries to sidestep. He falls into the same pattern of behavior. He tries to outsmart, out-trick Delilah. And Delilah is smarter than that. So, first time, he says, hey, if you wet up these cords and you wrap them around me, whenever it'll take away my strength and I'll be just like every other man. Delilah calls his bluff. Situation arises. The Philistines are here. He shakes out, becomes his normal self. His identity is still intact. Although he's trying to avoid and be somebody he's not, his identity is still intact. This happens 2 more times. And Delilah says this. She says, there's no way that you love me. There is no way that you can be connected to me and not tell me the truth. How many times have we been in situations that we've been pressed to do something that we know is wrong, that we know it will compromise our integrity, compromise our salvation even sometimes, our right standing with God, right? We will get so enthralled in a bad situation that we don't know how to get out of. And so what does Samson do? Because the word says that Delilah was nagging, poking at him, always wanting to know. So he gives up. He says, you know what? Here's the source of my strength. All you got to do is cut my head. I'll be just like every other man. Now, it's interesting that, again, your assignment and your identity never changes, even when we make foolish decisions. Because Samson was still a Nazarite. He was still handpicked by God. The entire plan of Samson from his birth until his death was to bring judgment against the Philistines. Now, it didn't matter how he got there, but his promise and his destiny was still set in stone. That's what I want to encourage you today, is that no matter how many times we fall, how many times we succumb to these vices, if we ask God to help us, He is faithful and just to forgive us. If we repent of our wrongdoing, He will always restore us back to our promise. It always comes full circle. It always does. So never think that you've done something so terrible that there's no coming back. Because God's plan and His purpose is forever. All right? So be wary, of 3 things. Pride of life, lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh. The word says for us to submit to God, right? Once we submit to Him, which means to follow after Him and to do what He says, the devil will flee. That's how you get rid of, when you're in a season of temptation, when you're in a moment of temptation, submit to God. And that is what causes the devil to flee. Be blessed. Y'all have a great day. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, IG, and Twitter.